Oh, hey kids, how you doing? It's your Uncle Mike here at Junks Automotive. And I tell you what, it's a beautiful night. It's nice out here in the little back paddock area, kind of where I store my stuff. The wife monitors a little bit, you know. There's something that I've kind of toiled and troubled myself over whether I should talk to you about or not. I tend to sit down and talk to you kids about stuff that's important to me, stuff that means something to me, and stuff that affects me. And this is really a pretty big one. And it's not an easy subject to talk about, especially this. And I'm going to apologize up front that I any of you that know me very well, have watched for very long, you know that I'm not the guy to hurt somebody's feelings, to disrespect anybody, have any ill feeling towards any human being on this planet. But I've been through a lot of things that's taught me to be that way. And I guess that's why I want to talk about this. I hope that maybe one person that sees this video, whether it's hard for them to hear or not, it affects them and it helps them. So, to start the story off, I guess I should say, to give it some context, you know, I grew up, you know, as a kid. We didn't have a whole lot. You know, I guess we were borderline poor. We never did go without eating. You know, we wore some hand-me-downs, and we had the jean patches were cool because we had holes in our jeans. We had the patches that looked like jeans, or they got cut off to be cut-offs and be shorts if they were bad enough. Mom couldn't fix them. So that you know that, I grew up with kids of all color. I just did. There was nothing wrong with it. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I thought that's just how it was. So knowing that, some of my very first friends, and I hate to use the easy term, the most politically correct one I can't think of, but to say somebody's one color or another kind of defeats the purpose of what I believe should be. But for the context of the story, I have to do that. It's just unfortunate, but I have to do that so that you kids understand what happened. But some of the very first friends I ever had that I hung out with and ran around with in the neighborhood, being a quiet kid that I was, you know, they were black. I never really thought anything of it. I knew that they were different, but I didn't think that they were any different than me other than their skin color. I never thought anything different. I'm just saying what it is. So I had, to this day, I still do. I highly respect some of the best people that have been in my life, and it doesn't matter what color they were. So that gives you context, I hope. But when I was sophomore in high school, we finally moved out of an apartment and bought a house. The family bought a house. It was cool. We were moving the other side of town, all new friends, all new everything. Left behind some friends that I'm still friends with, but you know, we moved away. It was towards the end of my sophomore year, I believe. I was there for 1 week, rode the school bus. I wasn't driving yet. I think my good old buddy Alvin was riding a school bus for a couple days or a week or something like that before he got to driving, and we didn't ride the school bus anymore. That's a different story. But one guy I got to be a little bit buddies with was in power mechanics, and he was the one who said, "Man, you ever heard of Meatloaf?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." So he had his Walkman tucked in his jean jacket with the big pockets and his headphones. He just handed me the headphones. He said, well, the teacher wasn't looking, obviously. He said, man, listen to this. And I was like, oh, yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard that music before. And he got me turned on to Meatloaf. And from then on out, we were buddies. You know, we both had the same jean jacket. We both had long hair. and we'd kid around. And he was one of my first friends at this new high school. And I believe it was a week and a half. It was homecoming. And the day of that Friday, the homecoming game was going to be that night. They let us all out of school early to walk up the front lawn to go on Zionsville Road there and watch the homecoming parade. Okay, right on. Well, I hooked up with my buddy from the power mechanics class, and he met a girl or a girl or two that he knew, and we sat in the grass as the parade went by. And I'm a new kid, so I don't know hardly anybody. So we're sitting there in the grass talking to a couple of nice looking girls that are our age. Man, what could a boy wish for? I was fitting in. I was happy. Sun was shining. Fire trucks were going by and trailers with all the football players and cheerleaders and all that, throwing candy off of it to everybody, and it was pretty cool. So we're sitting there enjoying our end of our day at school, and plunk, something lands in my lap, and I look down. It was a sucker stick with a half-eaten sucker on it. Sticky, nasty. I'm not beyond that, but I just kind of looked up as I flicked it off my lap. I saw this kid just smiling and grinning. Thought it was funny. Well, I didn't think it was funny, and I've always, especially at that age, I'd be the first one to stick up for myself. I dealt with bullies my whole life, fought my way through that. It didn't matter what color the bullies were. Half of them was white. So the mistake I made was I flipped him the bird. As he was walking along, smiling at me, thought it was funny that he flicked this nasty sucker on me. Which, I'd do that to this day. Especially if somebody, if it was an accident, oh man, I'm sorry. I'd be like, man, whatever, man, right on, that kind of thing. That would have been fine. But that's not how it went. I felt disrespected. And it didn't matter what color he was. He could have been green. I'd have still done the same thing, flipped him the bird. Boy, that was probably the last thing I should have done, apparently, because here he come. And I'm okay with a fight with anybody. If somebody wants to fight me, that's, let's square up and go at it. To this day, if I feel it's necessary, I would. You can ask my wife. Well, 3 or 4 of his buddies came with him. And it didn't take long. There were about 6 or 7 surrounded us. And I noticed the girls were gone. They took off. They saw trouble coming and took off. Well, they started hollering words I won't use here. And they got to spitting on us and started toe kicking us a little bit while me and my buddy was still sitting in the grass. So my buddy had to smarts. He said, man, we need to get up and go. We need to get up and start walking. Of course, at that time, everybody's walking towards the football field where they finished up the festivities for the day. So we were walking, he and I next to each other, and here comes this big dude. Comes right between us, and he just like around both our heads and starts squeezing them together as we're walking. And he's talking smack. We're not talking about anything. We're not saying nothing. I was able to kind of turn around and look. I saw a sea of people. That's all I'm going to say. A sea. Then I got scared. Then at some point, while the arms were strangling to both of us while we're trying to walk, I stuck my foot out in front of his feet, face first in the ground. I'm going to say it was a defensive move. I wasn't being offensive. I was being defensive because I knew something was going to happen. I can't tell you to this day why I did that. But as soon as I did that, all heck broke loose. Me and my buddy that I'm still friends with, we're brothers. But as we get, sorry. But it was because of that day. We had our heads kicked in, ribs kicked, and all we could do was face first on the ground. I'm not really sure what he did because I couldn't see. I imagine he's doing the same thing. Curl up and hope for the best. There wasn't no way to fight our way out of that. We got literally the crap kicked out of us. And before you know it, they were gone. So a teacher type person, what happened? What'd they look like? And of course I'm upset. So I have no clue. I don't know anybody. She says, well, you guys shouldn't be fighting. Yeah. We weren't fighting. I smarted off and I cussed her out a little bit, and I shouldn't have, but I was upset. Redhead, you know. Turns out she was my homeroom teacher. Yep. But in homeroom class, she didn't realize who I was. The problem with this, and that's something that happened, I never did tell my mom and dad. So my mom's going to see this, and it wasn't her fault. It was mine, best I could tell. So telling her something, I didn't have to go to the hospital. My injuries were what they were. I've been in lots of fights as a kid. I didn't want to worry her. I rode the school bus back and forth to the house and the school, and turns out a lot of those kids lived right behind me in the apartments that were behind the house. So I rode the school bus with a lot of them. The looks I got as they'd walk by getting off the bus right before I got off, so they knew where I lived. You talk about scared. Scared. The first couple of nights, couldn't sleep. I kept looking out the window. It wasn't cool. It doesn't matter that I gave a kid my own age the finger, because that's what you did back then. Funny or not, that's what you did. Nobody deserved that. So to this day, when I get in the crowds of people where there's a lot of people, especially when I was in early mid-20s, you go to a concert or something and people bump into you and are cussing, or somebody shoves you and all that, I tend to see red, and then the rest is history. But it took me a long time to figure out, actually playing music is when I figured out what made me feel that way. I was okay being on stage. I could see everybody. A crowded restaurant, I put my back to the wall and I want to be able to see the doorway, see everybody in the room. It's PSTD, whatever. That's what it is. But I believe my friend didn't fare so well. He came to school the next day, big knife in his pocket. He said, they ain't doing that again. All right, buddy, you know. Problem is, when he was early 20s, younger, he was at a bar that he shouldn't have been at, drinking, whatever. I don't know the complete story, but I do know he feared for his life and he killed a man with a knife. Three years in prison because he feared for his life. It wasn't right what happened to us that day. Even after that, I still believe we are all the same. Nowadays it's different. We're talking about the middle, late 80s. We should probably not judge people, because I think what happened is yeah, it was funny. I had the wrong reaction, and they looked at us with jean jackets, long hair, like we were rednecks that, yeah, against them racially, I guess. I don't know. Something in their past made them all gather together to beat the crap out of these two helpless kids that didn't even know what was going on before. Anyhow, I hope that this somehow gets a hold of some kid, some young man that's feeling like he's, yeah, you know, been wrong somehow through his life. But I do know this: somebody throws a sucker stick on me, I'm probably going to laugh and go, yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah. Well, it's getting dark and I got to get inside because, oh, I got more stuff to do. I got work to do. Hey, kids. Hope you understood that story and why I told it. And most of you is probably not going to, you know, sorry that happened, junk box. But I hope there's one person that I reach saying that to make them think a little bit, that judging someone for their looks, it's not right. And it goes both ways. But that's just me. Junk out.